With its advent in the 20th century and its increasing proliferation among people over the years, networking on social media platforms has become one of the most important activities online and has attracted millions of users in Nigeria. Social media is also increasingly becoming relied upon as a source of information, news, entertainment, education, and much more in Nigeria. In addition to its foundational role of facilitating social networking, social media have increasingly been found to play a key role in promoting civic and democratic engagement among people in Nigeria. As of January 2021, there were 33 million active social media users in Nigeria, with Southwest and Northwest as the major locations where these users can be found. Among these users, there are advocates who are bringing out the good information, the misinformers that are providing inaccurate information, but not deliberately, and misleaders who are deliberately putting out wrong information on social media. WhatsApp is the most popular platform used in the country. Next is Facebook, followed by YouTube and Instagram. Social media connect people. It can connect good people to good people to bad people, and bad people to bad people. The good to good ratio seems to be getting lost, not only in Nigeria, but in the Western world during this climate change. Just like we have in many other parts of the world, Nigerian media companies are regulated, newspapers are regulated, and telecommunication providers are regulated. Internet, social media companies like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, among others, are not regulated. People continue to tweet, like, comment, and share every day, but they are not conscious of the consequences of their dependence on social media. The measure to regulate social media in Nigeria, we need a decision, and we need it right now. The benefits of social media are self-evident, from the limited search for information to unparalleled connectivity, but the negatives on the balance sheet are piling up. This has led to the rise in proposal for regulation by government of various countries, including Nigeria.
There is every need, very crucial and important needs to regulate social media content in Nigeria, given the background of a country with over 250 different languages, different tongues, different ethnic worldviews, and the issue of religion and how it is practiced in Nigeria.
The media generally can't actually be left without regulation. The traditional media, as we have them, TV, radio, newspapers, there's some form of regulation that, to a large extent, protects the decency of the human being in society. Regulation like defamation, like sedition, protecting the society, and a whole lot of other, even privacy invasion. So I believe these regulations should be extended to social media.
And there is what we call cause and effect. For heavy action, there must be a cause for it. And the proposed bill, that is the proposed regulation of social media, is not without a cause, especially in Nigeria. When you look at issue of false information, or what we in academics we call information disorder, whether misinformation or disinformation, it's basically because of the abuse, or especially of issues, the way people use social media. So as a result of this, it gives the government, especially government as a stakeholder, the justification to call for regulation of social media.
In a nutshell, I feel it's very important that social media is regulated in the country. This social media is regulated in the country, which is very important. In 2020, the United Kingdom proposed the UK Online Safety Bill, which directs social media platforms and other services that host user-generated content to remove or limit the spread of harmful content or face a penalty of up to £18 million.
The whole internet can turn into a very kind of tricky place. But again, I suppose that's more, my argument would be that's more to do with people managing platforms for themselves and self-government and kind of heavy online harm legislation. What I worry about is that online harm legislation is actually a cover to shut down and suppress forms of speech that the government doesn't like.
In the year 2021, the government of India published a code of ethics for social media and streaming platform called Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics. These stipulate that social media platforms are not allowed to host, store, or publish any information prohibited by law in relation to the interests of the sovereignty or integrity of India, among other stipulations. Countries like Poland and Hungary are also proposed to make regulation for social media operations, which will make it harder for social media companies to delete controversial content or user accounts. Some African countries like Egypt, Ethiopia, are also on the verge of regulating social media. In Nigeria, the government strongly believes that all social media companies should be regulated. The government proposed an anti-social media bill in 2019 to criminalize the use of social media in spreading fake news, and Nigerians felt it was an attempt to target their freedom of expression. The reason for government decision revolve around the possibility of social media posing a threat to democracy, abuse and misuse, its implication on the adolescent mental health, propagation of fake news, misinformation, inciting hatred, hate speech, and much more. The issue of social media regulations has continued to generate controversies among the individuals, academics, professionals, and civil societies in Nigeria. How do we make Nigeria better? If people continue to use social media to propagate fake news, create mass cybercrime, chaos, violence, evils, and incite hatred. Regulating social media in Nigeria, a question of inevitable or mission impossible?
Well, whether it's possible is one thing, but it's quite inevitable, based on my own opinion. Inevitable, because we can't avoid. There's no way we can say we want to grow in the country. There's no way we want to advance our democracy without allowing people to talk. But at the same time, we can't leave people to continually, say things that are not correct, do things that are at variance to the common good of the entire country.
I think it depends who's doing the regulating, because one of the problems is that a lot of governments like the idea of regulation, and they use the word regulation to really refer to censorship. And there's obviously a relationship between regulation and censorship, because we can all agree that there are certain things that we don't really want on social media, like child exploitation or images of extreme violence or terrorism. But the problem comes when you start to define terrorism, because often oppressive governments might say, for example, even our own government in the UK has argued that radical ecological activists, people who want to, for example, close motorways or shut down oil companies, are terrorists. And I don't think that's terrorism. I think that's kind of non-violent direct action. I think there's a whole difference between terrorism and kind of extreme violence. Having said that, it's clearly not very good just to leave the platforms to their own devices, because when that happens, there are all sorts of other issues. So I'm in favour of a degree of regulation, but I'm very worried about heavy-handed regulation, because I think it could have unintended effects and really could shut down political speech, which I think it will be disastrous.
It's not strict control of press freedom, as some people are pushing it. But in terms of information dissemination, we are in very uncharted waters in terms of, we have never been here before, where about 2 billion people all over the world can post whatever they want on the internet through all the social media and the chat rooms, without anybody regulating it. It has never happened in history where you have these tech giants cocooned in their offices in Washington or New York or other parts of the world, having control over the media space and what information can get onto the air in all parts of the world. The world has never been there before. So I think it's not just Nigeria. It is a burden that the world has to carry in terms of finding a way to regulate what goes on the media, especially in the social media chat rooms.
So when you look at the surface, considering the abuse of social media, you will but support the regulation of social media. But in the other hand, some scholars and stakeholders consider the regulation of social media as overkill, that it is not desirable at this time, especially when we have a system that's not working. Law will only work, regulation will only work where there is an institution that works well.
When people are posting content on social media and they're posting information on social media, they're taking responsibility for what they are posting. You cannot wake up in the morning and just post something to defame my character and make me look stupid in the community of right-thinking people, and you say you do that because of social media, because of freedom of expression. Just as you cannot do that in a newspaper and on television and on radio, I think you shouldn't be able to do that on social media. So I strongly commend the government for trying to do that. Many people have argued that this is going to gag the press, but I really don't believe so. This is not about gagging the press. This is about making the space safe for all. We've seen many information on social media, especially today we're battling fake news across the world. You don't want to leave that terrain. You don't want to leave it uncharted. You don't want to leave it without regulation.
To curb the excess of fake news, the Nigeria government also banned Twitter in June 2021 and lifted the ban on 13th of January 2022 with conditions that the social media giant should set up a local office or a legal entity in the country, pay taxes, and cooperate with Nigerian government to regulate the content and harmful tweets.
People should not, be afraid that this will lead to control of the press and muscling of the press. No. At the end of the day, I think everybody in the world will begin to realize that we've never been here before. So we have to look at new ways of regulation, new ways of looking at how to keep the society safe from mischief makers cocooned in their rooms, in their offices, all over the world, in causing. Even if we are not careful, the next world war may emanate from fake news engineered and propelled in the chat rooms of social media. So some people are beginning to talk about the antisocial potentials of the so-called social media. The world will come to a stage where we have to weigh the negatives and the positives in allowing social media to go on unregulated.
Social media platforms that are, the dominant ones in Nigeria, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, we've got so many others, and precisely Twitter, where we have a lot of Nigerian youths, really abound that particular social media platform. And one thing about African setting, Nigeria precisely, people pay respect to those who've got names in society, those who are those who are elderly rather. They pay tributes, they pay respect to them. It's part of our values, it's part of our norms. But on Twitter, the tweets on Twitter, the netizens on Twitter, they do not care who you are. They do not care whether you're someone of value, as long as you say things that are not in line with what they believe or what they want you to say, they hurl abusive words at you. They say a lot of, stinking things at whoever that person is. And that's why recently the federal government actually banned that particular platform. And, they tried to, sit back and plan on how to make such work in Nigeria.
Recently, the Nigerian government has also come up with a code of practice for interactive computer service platform and internet intermediaries to set up the best practice that will make the digital ecosystem safer for Nigerian and non-Nigerian. Another objective of the code is to combat online harm, such as disinformation and misinformation.
When I look at the experience throughout the world, and particularly in Nigeria, is that we need to look at alternative voluntary measures, not necessarily law. Law will work more when we have a system that works. In Nigeria, there is no absolute trust in the institution. We don't have a viral institution that will be self-sustaining, that the law that will be associated with the regulation of social media will not be abused, especially by those at the ends of affairs. So for us, regulation or law might be the solution if we have a strong institution that serve as check and balances for possible abuse of this law. Because we have had situations where the representative of government will use law to suppress press freedom.
You cannot, the tech giants cannot be allowed to regulate themselves. They are profit-making companies. They do not have the sensibility. They do not face the problems of national cohesion, national unity, national unison of purpose that countries, that national assemblies and the Senate, the House of Representatives, the House of Commons in England as well, we have about their own countries. There has to be an international code for regulation.
The world we live is not real. Social media is not real. Social media is designed to be addictive. It only rewards us by showing our best life edited. People should be responsible for what they post and share on social media. We can always talk of regulation, but it is more important that we encourage digital media literacy.
So I think regulation, a degree of regulation, but putting more emphasis onto literacy so that people can critically understand and read what they see, so they don't take stories at face value, so they don't always believe automatically either what the government says or what the opposition says or what any other website says, but they're actually thinking for themselves about what they're looking at and asking questions about the authenticity of the source, and particularly asking the question, who's paying for this? Who's paying for this media? Whose interest is this media being produced in? Why is this here? And just beginning to read and think about media a little bit more critically makes some of these problems go away, because people become very aware of the fact that this might well be a story that's designed to go viral but might have no substance or basis in fact. And and of course that has a complicated relationship to the idea of trust. Well, how do we know what a trusted media source is? How do we learn the difference between news that we can trust and news which is just designed to spread rumors, wind us up, cause us to click more on the next story? And that requires, again, a degree of critical media literacy, I think.
The world, like I said, the world is being forced to now contend with what we call alternative facts, post-truth era, and so on and so forth. So it cannot be free for all as it used to be for long. And it is not going to be a Nigerian problem alone. Very soon, the whole world will catch on to it that the social media and its anti-social potentials should not be allowed to reign forever.
What is good for Nigeria in terms of addressing the challenges relating to false information is the use of fact-checking, is the use of media literacy and buy-in of all stakeholders rather than outright law. For example, when you look at media literacy will empower the audience, the citizen, and those that are exposed to misinformation to know how to be critical, develop the critical minds of the audience. So when you deliver the critical minds of the audience, it will frustrate the effort of purveyors of disinformation. It will frustrate what? The effort of the purveyors of disinformation. Because what purveyors of disinformation lash on is the ignorance of the audience. So with media literacy, what law cannot do, media literacy will do. What regulation cannot do, media literacy will do. So media literacy is one of the best alternatives to address the challenges of information disorder, disinformation, or spread of false information on social media, rather than regulation.
As everyday lives become more saturated with information, digital literacy competence will give individuals the ability to make responsible choices, access information, and analyze messages in variety of forms. It will also help to evaluate the quality and credibility of content on social media. To ensure that digital literacy is well established in Nigeria, social media users should be given the opportunity of being exposed to the lesson at different levels of education. It is a long-term action, but it is the best way to go.